Okay, we're back, and we're going to ask the questions from the internet. Salman, would you write the Satanic Verses today?
Fortunately, I don't have to because I already wrote it.
No, I think what they're probably asking.
I know what they're probably asking.
Okay. Eugene, what do you think would incentivize change in our approach to the war on drugs?
Well, I think if we found a way to remind the American people what a huge amount of money this is costing us, that you make profit simply by pulling back on this insane waste of money. We've spent $1 trillion in 40 years.
Right. And also that they're probably less safe, right, because the cops are going after drug stuff. And
when cops have to spend all their time breaking people for little petty arrests, they lose their focus on the real crimes that we should worry about.
Exactly. Chris Matthews, are you taking heat for being willing to call a comment racist sometimes before anyone else has raised the issue? No.
Everybody I've met who's African American has come up to me about 6 inches away from me and very personally said thank you. I met some people in Mozambique. I met some people in Jamaica. It is an international reality, and everybody feels it on that side of the racial divide. And it's disgusting that white people to whom the dog whistle is aimed refuse to acknowledge it. It is there. It's been part of our politics. We thought it was gone. It's back, and it's being used to get votes.
Okay. If profits are up for companies, shouldn't the results of their prosperity be more evident in the salaries of Americans?
You would think so, but as I said earlier, the labor share of the pie is the lowest it's been in 40 years. I think one of the reasons for that is that companies aren't investing in the U.S., they're investing abroad. That's why we need to get more competitive at home.
Yeah, I mentioned trickle economics a couple of times in the show when it came up. Don't you think that worked only once? You know, when Reagan brought the rates down from 70% to 28,
right.
Of course that was going to goose the whole thing.
Right.
But you kind of shot your load. I mean, you kind of can't do that every time. Now that we're at 36, I mean, really, what would it change?
I would hope the common ground would be not only to look at just the tax, but to look at the other things. The $1 trillion it costs a small business to comply with regulations, for example. Government's just too big, too oppressive, too complex. You start a little stand somewhere, you got a lemonade stand, your 11-year-old girl, and the guy comes and shuts it down from the local city because you don't have a permit. This kind of stuff has got to stop. And that's happened in a lot of places.
You know, I'm going to push back. I think that you can cut red tape, but I think if you talk to older people in business, I mean, someone like Warren Buffett, when tax rates were far higher, growth was also higher too. I just don't think that entrepreneurs are going to leave because of tax rates and red tape.
The corporate rate they are leaving now, as you pointed out, the corporations are investing overseas because the corporate rate is the highest in the industrial world. Sweden is
they're investing because that's where the growth is.
And why is it the growth? Sweden just cut their corporate rate to 22%. Ours is 35% in socialist Sweden.
We should streamline taxes. We should get rid of loopholes that people who should be paying more taxes should be not taking advantage of. And I think that we also should lower tax rates on earned income, to go back to your point about the people that are working really hard in this country, not lazy people.
There's common ground.
Let's lower taxes here and make people up here.
Close the loopholes, lower the rates. That's exactly actually what Rami is saying.
But they've studied this, and regulations are not hindering the economy. It was
They are.
No, it's fundamental growth. You've got to make the U.S. more competitive. That's what it's all about.
So how do you do it?
Well, you've got to invest, and this is happening at the local level. Cities that come together. I just came from Columbus, Ohio, actually, last week. There you've got a Democratic mayor who convinced a bunch of Republican city fathers to do a tax hike, first in 27 years. The city is now booming. They invested in infrastructure and education. This is what we need to do at the national level.
I mean, it did work under Clinton. You got to admit that. The 93 tax hike under Clinton, which was only 3% on the richest people. You know, it's not exactly socialism to raise taxes 3% on the top 1%.
You know, in this Romney thing, okay? Romney gives a speech because it was a good speech down there in Tampa, and he had a line in there about, I'm just going to help the American family. I'm not going to stop the sea level from rising. Well, you know, then he told the joke again some later on. You know, the trouble with the premise of that, their jokes are fine, but the premise of that joke was science is a joke. Well, you know, New York City is now retrofitting its subway to deal with the higher sea levels that are coming. Everybody knows it's happening. We got 20 or so countries down in Southeast Asia that know they're going to be underwater. Why
does it matter with the subway, though? That's underwater anyway.
No, the water will be in it. That'll be a problem.
Why?
Comes over the city streets.
It
and
comes
down
over the
into
city streets
tubes.
because the water level's
fuck.
rising
that
up.
bad?
In other words, it's not in theory.
Science.
Oh, that is bad.
That's bad.
Oh, I'm glad I live in Cali.
We don't have that problem.
As you just have, just a hope it's going to all break off and fall into the ocean.
You
Subsidence.
know,
Oh, you have to-
they've been saying that for years.
Subsidence.
Oh, no. We got the nice weather. You know, you're San Diego.
I'm on the beach.
Come on, we love it.
Absolutely.
We love it. We love L.A. Nobody from the 80s? Century Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard. Hoo, hoo, hoo. We love, yeah, nobody's. You used to identify yourself, M. Sturgo says, as a progressive Republican. Do you still consider yourself such, or do you more really identify with the Tea Party now?
I tell you, in the long time I've been going through this stuff, the environmental stuff is really important, was really important. It's continued to be important. And in California, we've made remarkable progress. People don't give enough credit.
Leads
to
the nation, always.
Leads the nation in this stuff. Now, some of
Makes
it
the
gets,
nation follow us.
and some of it gets a little overboard. I mean, businesses are leaving. We got some problems of balance. But I live on the beach in San Diego, and I love it. We have a height limit. We have some controls on stuff. It's not going to become Miami. We're going to have a nice place for our kids and grandkids and their grandkids. That's the kind of thing that I was committed to and still am. I mean, it makes sense.
So are you a Tea Party person or not?
Now, here's the. I'll get to that. No, the Tea Party thing.
I
I'll
heard
tell you
about the
what.
beach. I didn't know what had to do with the Tea Party.
The Tea Look,
I don't know, Tea Party.
Are
on
you in the
beach.
Tea Party? I live on the beach and I love it.
it was a good answer, wasn't it?
Okay. What do you think the Occupy Wall Street movement has accomplished for the middle class? What has it failed to accomplish
Nothing.
for you?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, the tents are gone, but I think that there's a real debate in this country now about the fact that you can't have an economy where 70% is cut out, you know, and I think that you're going to start to see change. I think that banks are going to be...
Wait, 70.
Well, you know, you can talk 1 or 99, but basically there's a 70%
We got the
group.
47, we got the 99, now we got 70.
The middle class. You
Who's
can't
70?
have the 70% in the middle that are really crunched. You cannot have an economy working without them spending, right? And I think that there's a real discussion about that now. I think that you're going to start to see banks regulated and broken up. I think if Obama gets a second term, you're going to really see people like Gary Gensler, who's maybe going to get the SEC post, go after the banks. I think that you're going to see people start to talk about income-based growth rather than trickle-down stock growth, which isn't working.
Okay, we got to go. Thank you very much, everybody. We will take a week off and see you a week from Friday. Thank you.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.